councils who report out of closed session. Active closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board of Supervisors met in closed session over the lunch hour to discuss the remaining items on today's agenda. In regards to agenda number 3, the board met and conferred with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and the significant exposure litigation pursuant to section 54956.9 in one case. This closed session is authorized by section 54956.9 D2 and E2. At this time, the board took no reportable action. And in regards to agenda item number 4, the board met and conferred with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and the significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision D2 and E5 of Government Code section 54956.9 in one case. The facts and circumstances justifying this closed session are statements made regarding the potential litigation if the county proceeds forward with the purchase of property located at 1161 San Felipe Road for a new homeless shelter. At this time, the board took no reportable action. In regards to agenda item number 6, the board met and conferred with its real property negotiators regarding property located in Hollister, California. The parcel numbers are 020-170-043, 059-020-003, and 059-020-001. The agency negotiators were Adam Goldstone, the capital program manager, Brent Barnes, the resource management agency director, Ray Espinoza, CAO, Joe Paul Gonzalez, clerk recorder auditor, Matthew Granger, county counsel, Barbara J. Thompson, assistant county counsel, and Shirley Murphy, deputy county counsel. Negotiating parties are John Perales, superintendent of San Benito High School. Under negotiation were the price and terms of payment. Authority to meet can be found in California Government Code section 54956.8. At this time, the board took no reportable action. In regards to agenda item number 7, the board met and conferred with counsel regarding real property negotiations for property located in Hollister, California. Parcel number is APN 020-320-027. The agency negotiators are Adam Goldstone, capital program manager, Brent Barnes, resource management agency director, Ray Espinoza, CAO, Joe Paul Gonzalez, the clerk recorder auditor, Matthew Granger, county counsel, Barbara Thompson, assistant county counsel, and Shirley Murphy, deputy county counsel. Negotiating party is Sonny Flores, executive director of the Community Services Development Corporation. Under negotiation were the price and terms of payment for the real property. The authority to meet can be found in California Government Code section 54956.8. And again, at this time, the board took no reportable action. Finally, in regards to agenda number 8, the board met and conferred with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation and significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision D2 and E2 of the Government Code section 54956.9 in one case. Facts and circumstances justifying this closed session were the potential of additional litigation regarding the master tax sharing agreement currently being litigated in Award Homes, Inc. versus the County of San Benito et al. Under case number CU-15-00099 and BMC Promise Way, LLC, doing business as Benchmark Communities versus the County of San Benito et al., filed in the Superior Court of California in the County of San Benito under case number CU-15-0056. And the board took no reportable action in regards to this agenda item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, counsel. So at this time, we'll move on to item 23. It's out of our Health and Human Services Agency, Mr. Ridingsworth.
Thank you, Jim Ridingsworth, Health and Human Services. So we're coming before the board today to authorize and ask you to allow us to operate the winter warming shelter program from December 3rd, 2016 through March 31st, 2017. We will be back in front of the board in a few weeks with final actions on this. We were actually been in negotiation up until last Friday working out contract details, specifically with the Farm Labor Association. We want to thank the Farm Labor Association for their great cooperation this year. They actually are going to do all of our meals for us under this year for us, which will help a lot. So what if you take action today, you're giving us permission to move forward to start hiring people. We will then, again, come back to the board at one of your November meetings with the final budget. We have identified $239,000 for the operations this year, which is adequate to meet the needs. So that's what we're asking today. So we can move forward. Then we'll come back in at one of your meetings in November and finish everything up for the operations this year.
And any questions of members of the board? Supervisor Munzer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jim, so
Yes, sir.
looking over the budget, I still have kind of issues on the budget.
Okay.
Your revenues. The intergovernment.
IGT, Intergovernmental Transfer Funds.
What is that?
Those were monies that we applied for last year. I don't know if you recall, but it was a special source of funding from federal Medicaid resources. We brought in, don't remember the exact number, about $115,000, I think. This is the reserve that's left over, so we can use it this year.
Okay, and then the CMSP?
County Medical Services Program is the program that we as a county belong to, along with about 34 other counties. It's operated out of Sacramento. They put out a request for proposal this year to its members. It's a non-competitive request. We put in for a $75,000 per year. It'll be for 3 years, so the total is $225,000. Those funds will be awarded around the 1st of December.
So you're pretty sure we're going to get those funds? Because otherwise you're about $75,000
No.
short.
They're non-competitive. We are going to get the funds.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we put in the application. In fact, one of the phone calls I made last week was to CMSP to be assured that everything was in place. It's kind of like our CDBG grants. I mean, once we know they're there, they're there. And we know that this will be available around the 1st of December, which means it'll happen about the time that we're opening, but it's just part of the budget. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's all
right.
there.
Okay, because I guess my concern was if this was a competitive thing, that there was a possibility we might not get it.
No.
We're hiring people now, and then we might come up short paying them.
No.
Okay, all right. Very good. Thank you, Mr.
We're
Chair.
very sure of this budget.
Okay.
Supervisor De La Cruz?
Thank you. Jim, what's the average from December 3rd through March 31st?
What's the average
Average,
population? Last year, we started out with just a few, and we built up to about 35. Of course, last year, the Homeless Coalition was also operating. So this year, we bumped the maximum up to 40.
average will be 40?
Pardon?
It'll be about 40, the average?
Well, no, the maximum will be 40. I don't know what the average will be. But we also have an agreement with the Farm Labor Association that if for some reason we go above 40, they'll make additional units available to us.
I'm looking at how much they're charging you to provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it comes out, if you figure, the average was 25, you figure, and I divided that figure, so it costs each person about $17 to $18, for a 3-course meal.
For 3 meals a day, it's $12.50 a day for the first 20, and then I think it's $10 a day above that.
Okay, so it's $12.50 a day.
Yeah, and that's for 3 meals a day, and they take care of the kitchen. They take care of everything.
They provide the lunch, the sandwich.
Absolutely.
When they go out,
Yes.
they provide the sandwich.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor De La Cruz. Any other questions, members of the board?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair, thank you. Jim, last year we were doing it together with the Homeless Coalition. Now it's
Yes.
going to be solely the county running
Yes.
the program. But you have a year experience, and I think you did a really good job, you and your
Yeah.
staff,
Yeah.
with minimal issues. So I really, I'm very hopeful that we're going to have as good a year results. I
Yeah.
don't expect that it'll be any different.
I cannot say to you how much our staff is dedicated to this project.
We visited it, and
Yeah.
it was amazing.
And next year, we'll be in a year-round facility.
Right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, at this time, I'll open up to the public for questions or comments. Now I'll bring it back to the board for a decision.
Mr. Chair, make a motion that we authorize services to operate the winter warm shelter program from December 3rd, 16 through March 31st, 17 at the San Benito County South Bay Labor Camp.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Moving on to our final agenda item of the day. Louis bringing it home with number 24.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, good afternoon. You have up on the, I'm going to say, video screens, a presentation a video and a PowerPoint that will follow from Ginny Johnson. Ginny Johnson is the management analyst to Supervisor McPherson. She is here today to give you a follow-up presentation on the Community Choice Energy project that you heard earlier this year. We are at a stage where governing boards of supervisors, city councils are being asked to consider a resolution that is before you. There are two actually that were drafted. That is basically a notice of intent to participate in the consortium that the proposal calls for the governing bodies to join and to become a part of that entity. So I'd like to have Ginny Johnson come up and present this video to you, give you the follow-up information, and you can address any questions to her. I just want to make really clear, we gave you a copy of the amended resolution that Barbara Thompson from County Council prepared that seeks to add a permanent seat for the County of San Benito as opposed to the shared seat that was called for in the original resolution because we thought that was essential for the county to have. So Ginny, without further ado, please.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for the opportunity this afternoon and for sticking around after lunch. I know it's a long day for all of you. I have presented to your board a couple of times. It's been my pleasure to come back each time, and today as well. I do want to show you a brief 4-minute video, and what's nice about the video, we have produced it as part of the project to promote the project and also to explain it. It summarizes a very, very complex technical study that we've endeavored to do over the last 3.5 years. As you recall, this project is a regional partnership of all the 21 governments in the Tri-County region, all 3 counties and all 18 cities. The Santa Cruz County became your lead partner, raised $400,000. It did not impact our general funds to fund the project, which was a technical study of community choice energy. And so, as you know, in our region, 50% of our greenhouse gas does come from the energy sector. Of all the things that we can do to lower our emissions, this is one that we actually have quite a bit of control over. There's been a number of successful community choice energy agencies in the state, and with me today is a state-recognized and national expert who will be answering your questions about those other CCE agencies and the state law if you have them. As part of our outreach, we have done over 135 presentations in the community throughout the Tri-County area. Rotaries, business clubs, ag groups, et cetera, education groups, all across the different sectors and spectrums, and of course city councils and boards of supervisors, so that we can get the word out about what this project is, and you have all the information you need to make a really good decision. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the video. Again, it was produced to explain and summarize over 300 pages that we gathered of technical analysis and documents. And then we'll talk a little bit further after the video. if I can get this right. Okay?
It's not often that a community has a chance to join together to change the world they live in. What if we could create skilled permanent jobs, empower our local community to make its own decisions about where its electricity comes from, and reduce climate warming greenhouse gas emissions? What if we could do it without any new taxes or new costs to local governments, and without raising rates? The moment has arrived. Monterey Bay Community Power is a regional initiative to provide electricity to businesses and residents throughout Monterey, San Benito, and Santa Cruz counties. Using the state-approved Community Choice Energy Model, communities can choose clean power and create jobs. Surplus revenues that would normally flow to PG&E stay local. Customers also benefit from a higher level of accountability because Monterey Bay Community Power will be a local public agency. It's all about choice. Current customers will be able to choose Monterey Bay Community Power or stay with PG&E to provide electricity. Power lines and delivery of electricity will continue to be handled by PG&E, ensuring the same dependability, customer service, and billing process. Monterey Bay Community Power customers will pay for their cleaner electricity through a line item on their PG&E bill. Again, rates will be equivalent to PG&E's. And through Monterey Bay Community Power, our local community will choose where its electricity comes from and how to invest revenue surpluses that currently go to PG&E shareholders.
The best decisions for our community come from our community. The Monterey Bay Community Power Initiative, for the first time, gives Central Coast residents and businesses a choice in where their power comes from, building on the progress we've made in using renewable energy. This initiative will empower our community, increase transparency, and lead to real results in everyday lives.
Monterey Bay Community Power will purchase clean, renewable energy. Nearly 60% of the electricity would come from renewable sources, compared to approximately 30% currently provided by PG&E.
Here at the Monterey Regional Waste Management District, we're turning waste into energy. We take methane gas that is released from decomposing material in the landfill and convert it into energy through our generators. We are helping to meet a key climate action goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Monterey Bay Community Power will allow our region to increase its use of clean energy sources. Everyone wins, and so does our planet.
While offering rates equivalent to PG&E, Monterey Bay Community Power will keep surplus money in the community, which will help stimulate our local economy by creating numerous jobs that will produce nearly $1.4 billion in estimated total economic output. Monterey Bay Community Power will also establish many permanent operations and maintenance jobs, providing additional estimated annual economic output of $28 million.
Monterey Bay Community Power is based on a proven successful model in the state of California. For example, in 2014, Sonoma County launched Sonoma Clean Power, which in just 1 year reduced its climate emissions by over 40% and saved its customers millions. Marin Clean Energy is offering its customers a choice of 56 to 100% renewable energy, nearly double the clean power offered by PG&E. These examples, combined with a technical study, point to a very bright future for Monterey Bay Clean Power.
Monterey Bay Community Power offers an opportunity to empower residents and businesses to keep money local and make decisions that deliver economic vitality and cleaner energy for our region and our future. Our moment has arrived.
Okay, Louie, where am I supposed to go? I have a few slides. We're not going to belabor, but I do want to explain a little bit about our process, which has been very robust. And I do want to explain a little bit about the technical study, which I think that's what I promised you I would do the first time I came before you. So let's talk a little bit about the process. Right one? I got it. There was a regional committee. You did have Adam Goldstein Stone represent your county for about the first year or so before he left the county and then came back. Congratulations, he's wonderful. But that was a 3.5-year regional committee process that guided the technical study after we raised the money. There were 15 members. Actually, there's a typo on my slide deck, I'm a little embarrassed to say, not 26, but 28 public meetings where the study was scoped and supervised, and we tapped community choice experts from throughout the state and nation, and one of them is with us today, Sean Marshall, and you'll be hearing from her in a moment. That committee conducted over 100 hours of public testimony and investigation, receiving expert presentations and testimony, engaging members of the public. We did make sure that folks from San Benito County and Monterey County had an opportunity to attend by having some of those meetings or half of them in the Marina Landfill Board meeting or boardroom, so that it wasn't just centric to Santa Cruz. We wanted to make sure that it was regionally appropriate and there was geographically appropriate. We did discuss and analyze all the successes and challenges of the established community choice energy agencies. Very important to learn best lessons. And then we did have feasibility findings, the technical study that we produced and all of the analysis and documents that we gathered from the other CCE agencies. We published over 300 pages of analysis and documents, and the committee did have feasibility findings and formation recommendations on lessons learned and best practices. So let's talk a little bit about those. Number one, we asked, when I first came up before your board, to ask if you wanted to participate. We wanted to know if it was feasible, and our number one finding was, in fact, the analysis and outcomes of the work undertaken for the past 3 years, that we can establish a successful CCE agency within this region. It's highly feasible and with a wide range of options. And so we'll talk about a few of those options today. I want to talk a little bit about the technical study. I don't want to get too wonky here, but I think you might be interested in how the committee guided this study. We asked our consultants that we hired with the money we raised to study 3 different scenarios. One was a scenario that said we would like to know how to maximize our renewables, but to stay within rate parity of PG&E. We don't want to charge more. One scenario was saving money and maximizing greenhouse gas emission reductions. And one was actually what would it cost if we raised up to the highest level of renewables. We just studied all 3, and we did in fact come up with the middle ground, which was we can double our amount of renewables on rate parity with PG&E. We can increase substantially our renewables on cost savings. So that's really exciting news, because we're not assuming anybody in our region is going to want to pay more for greener energy. We all believe in greener energy, but we also understand the economic benefits. We found that in the first year, with a mix of the renewables of 60%, 59% versus what we're getting now, 27%, 70% greenhouse gas free, that we could get to that goal in 1 year, and in 10 years we could be 85% renewable and 85% greenhouse gas free on rate parity with PG&E. The equivalent of taking almost 30,000 cars off the road, which is terrific. And that's, again, the number one greenhouse gas emission reduction mechanism we have. One of the things that is really intriguing to me is that we know that we can probably bank between $8.5 and $9+ million of surplus per year. That's an important number, because this particular agency, it will start up with loan money, and then that loan money will be paid back. Nothing from your general fund, but that money will be paid back with ratepayer revenues. And once those loans are paid back, this surplus revenue can be used for the benefit of the ratepayers in the region. With a number of complementary programs, you could even lower rates. You can invest in renewable energy projects. That's a very exciting economic opportunity. There were over 23 key guiding principles that your committee recommended for your new JPA board of Monterey Bay Community Power once it's formed. I'm only going to go through 6 very quickly, because they're very, very important, I think, to your decision-making process. One is that your committee recommends that the JPA board offer competitive rates, the same or less, when you actually decide on the product mix that you're going to offer your customers. That was a known, and no unbundled renewable energy credits, which are really not real renewables, no coal, no nuclear. So that was a very important recommendation. Your committee also recommended a rapid investment in local renewable energy generation while ensuring fiscal stability and rate parity. That's a very important one. We want to build organizational capacity. We want to run this agency conservatively. We want to make sure that its debt is paid off and that it's very solid on the ground before you start investing its surplus revenues. Controlling and safeguarding customer revenues and pursuing long-term power procurement strategies and local power ownership to hedge future market risk. This is a very important best practice because basically what it means is we can arm our region eventually against the fluctuations of the energy marketplace. And we can be much more self-sustaining here locally for the future. To offer complementary programs that serve community interests. And what does that mean? There's dozens that we can envision. They can be things like incentivizing solar installations on private and commercial property, even municipal property. It could be things like energy efficiency retrofits, such as the AMBAG Energy Watch program. It could be things like feed-in tariff, which means if you are a property owner and you have a solar installation on your property, you can oversize that solar installation and the local CCE agency can purchase your extra renewable power from you for more than PG&E does right now. Feed-in tariff is a particularly interesting complementary program. Last year, Sonoma Clean Power wrote over $200,000 of checks to their local school districts because those schools oversized their solar systems. They produced everything they personally needed, and then they sold it back to Sonoma Clean Power. It's a great way for their roofs to become money generators for themselves, and our schools always need that. The fifth and sixth guiding principle that I want to go over, the fifth, is establish criteria for the use of those surplus revenues. This is a very, very important one. We want to make sure that there adheres that criteria to geographic equity and economic justice principles. And we do need to have criteria. We need to know how we're going to spend that extra revenue. We don't, government usually doesn't generate money to be spent for the good of the community. So it's a little bit different kind of government agency than we're normally used to. And then lastly, but not the least and very important, to develop a long-term strategic goal of regional energy self-sufficiency by building out local renewable energy projects. This is, again, helps to bulletproof our region from those fluctuations in the marketplace. It keeps those revenues local, and it creates those local jobs. So that's a very, very important part of the guiding principles recommended to your governing board. I would like to introduce, we have one more slide, but I'd like to introduce to you a statewide expert in community choice energy, Sean Marshall. You saw her in the video. She is the founder and executive director of the Lean Energy US, the Local Energy Aggregation Network, which is a nonprofit organization that assists counties and cities in investigating community choice energy. In 2007, she served on the task force, ultimately that became Marine Clean Energy. She served on that board of directors, that founding board, for 3 years. She also served as a Mill Valley City Council member, the mayor and vice mayor during that time. And prior to that elected life, she worked on public policy in Washington, D.C., among other great accomplishments. I'd like you to welcome Sean Marshall.
Good afternoon, supervisors. Thank you for having me. I've been down here one other time before, I want to say probably 4 or 5 months ago now, so it's delightful to be back in front of you to provide some updates on what's happening out there in the world of community choice. And I'm just going to focus for a moment on California. We do work all over the country, but the program is really in tremendous expansion mode in the state of California. So just to level set where we are, currently there are 5 programs that are operational in the state. Marin Clean Energy, which is where I had my roots, started in 2010, followed by Sonoma Clean Power, we'll talk about that in a minute, that followed in 2014. And then you had Lancaster, the city of Lancaster, which is down in Southern California. And then just this past year, San Francisco came online, and San Mateo County with Peninsula Clean Energy. And then coming up, in 2017, we have another 5 communities coming online. Today, the Yolo County Board of Supervisors and the City of Davis are taking their vote. We do expect those votes to pass. So that'll be one that's launching in May of this year. Humboldt County is looking to launch in 2017. Santa Clara will be launching in the spring of 2017. Alameda County, and then a number of communities in the southern part of the state. So you all are right in the mix here in terms of this next wave of programs coming online. So with that, I'll just run through a couple of key statistics just so you understand how are the operational programs doing, which we think is a very good prologue for what is potentially going to happen down here in Monterey Bay. So right now, you have Sonoma Clean Power serving 196,000 customers. That includes the entire county. And they just voted in the last month to add Mendocino County to their program. So Mendocino will commence service in June of 2017 under the umbrella of Sonoma Clean Power and all of its cities. Currently, their average budget, or their annual budget, is at $165 million. They have right now revenues in excess of $35 million sitting in reserves, which is a substantial amount that they're using that as a strategy to quickly qualify for a bond rating, a credit rating through the bond houses, so that they can then go and develop local power projects. They have a power portfolio. Their default product is 35% renewable, as opposed to PG&E's, which is currently at 30%. And they do have 100% voluntary renewable power product that's an opt-up option. They had $2.5 million in startup costs that are fully paid off. Those were paid off within 1 year. That's very similar to the result we saw in Marin. And their opt-out rates are between 10 and 11%. So they've got a retention rate of 89%. In Marin, they are also in expansion mode. They have a number of communities in Contra Costa that have decided to join them, and they are enrolling now. So MCE is going to be bumping up to 250,000 customers here over the next several months. Their default product is at 56% renewable, again, juxtaposed to PG&E at 30%. They have 3 power options: the default product, the 100% opt-up, and then they have a local community-based solar project that people can invest in for what they call virtual net metering at a cost premium. Their startup capital was paid off in under 12 months, so the county was paid off in under 12 months. And a key feature about Marin's program, since they've been around the longest, they now have 10 local development projects underway, one of which is in the city of Richmond. That's a 12-megawatt solar project being developed on the Chevron site. They also have a number of other small distributed solar projects in development right now within their service territory. They have calculated that they created 2,400 new jobs, not only locally but statewide, because they have now contracted for 500 megawatts of new power in the state of California, and that's all new power that would otherwise not have been developed but for them, and that's all renewable: wind, solar, geothermal, etc. So just briefly, San Mateo started serving their first phase of customers. 90,000 customers came online 3 weeks ago. Glad to say that enrollment has gone smoothly. Their opt-outs are below 1%, so they have very high customer retention so far. And they will be bringing on their phases 2 and 3 in the spring of 2017 to serve all of the rest of the county. And San Francisco is just enrolling their phase 2 customers, 70,000 residential customers in the city right now, and their opt-outs are below 2%. So what we've really seen is a precipitous drop as the program has become more standardized, more accepted. We see that it is financially feasible. Customers are saving money. In every case, customers are saving money, that the opt-outs have really dropped down. So I will stop there and ask if you all have any questions. We're here to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions from members of the board at this time? No? Okay, at this time I'd like to open up to members of the public. Questions or comments?
First speaker is Christina Wyatt.
Good afternoon, Chairman Rivas, supervisors. Christina Chavez Wyatt, San Benito County resident, proud one, small business owner, consultant to the Business Council and EDC, as well as a member of the Chamber Green Business Committee who helped get the ball rolling for the CCA here. I do want to start by saying I do want to see community choice happen in our region, but at this point, this is where we can swing some things in our favor, because we have the time to ask the tough questions and suggest a few other ideas to be evaluated to give us the information we need should we choose to move forward. The facts are that Monterey Bay Community Power is largely using an outdated model for their CCA. Their consultants who did the feasibility community choice aggregation. No problem. Consultants who did the feasibility study were unfortunately slow, inefficient, they were expensive, and they may have compromised benefits to member communities such as ours. The studies were in fact sole source and weren't subject to a competitive process. It would have been wise to conduct due diligence on the model chosen by the Humboldt-Redwood Coast Energy Authority, as no one's compared to or may understand the difference without doing this work. This resulted in better services, better companies, and a lower price, a competitive process that was more transparent. This could benefit everyone. With price competition, it eliminates upfront costs, and it shaves times on the startup. Of all places, Humboldt is miles ahead of us. But Humboldt County is also using this better example, as well as Lake and Mendocino, that have followed with issuing a new single RFP. 4 companies with decades of experience responded in all of those proposals, resulting in integrated teams. And most importantly, none of this has resulted in out-of-pocket expenses for the jurisdictions. What's really good in these instances is the risk in this case is to the contractor and not to the municipalities who are participating. Once it's launched, the contractors can get paid over several years once cash flow is established. They start investing in year 3 rather than sitting on the cash, which is proposed with our current proposal by Monterey Bay Community Power. In the case of Humboldt, they chose the Energy Authority, which is a nonprofit public power mission, and they care about their mission, powering local jobs and not under the guise of stakeholders or profiting the consultant. Importantly, to our county, the study doesn't show a clear picture of what a CCA can do. Local projects, what type, how many jobs, and costs are saved. There's no plan for jobs. On a regional level, we can look at the rates we want or need in contrast with the coast. Even the middle ground is a compromise. The rate savings could be and should be higher for us because our risk is the greatest. Smaller, more like-minded groups with similar demographics may make more sense, maybe working with Salinas, the Salinas Valley, or Monterey County. In our case, we have no scale, no bandwidth, and the city of Salinas or Monterey County could actually go on their own, and they're looking at that. And if we're interested, we might even be able to go with them. And
Ms. White, if you can wrap up.
Absolutely. Furthermore, under the leadership of the Monterey County Supervisors, Simone Salinas and Jane Parker, they have actually gone to the community with the survey. Would it be valuable to consider those results if we move forward? We need to know from our residents and business if they will be willing to pay more at the outset, and we do know from our countywide business survey that was just conducted by the Workforce Development Board that utility costs are very major concerns of both our large and small businesses. We are valuable to this group because we have land and we have power infrastructure, as we've seen, and we've attracted Panoche Valley Solar. Our open space gives us more potential for production. We can help with the long-term goal, and by paying more for power purchase agreements would give us a chance to attract more projects. But the cost has already been great for our county. As you know all too well, we've already been fighting to build the Panoche Valley Solar Project at every level. Here at the county level, we've had to defend our award-winning EIR 3 times.
Okay, Ms. White, I have to cut you off. I'm sorry. Thank you for your comments.
Next speaker is Carrie Arnold.
Chairman, Supervisors. What this is a transfer surrender of local authority, clear and simple. These are not local regulations. They are law by conspiracy. They're not concocted by the local people at all. She mentioned Jane Parker and Bruce McPherson. Both those were receiving money from Packard. Packard supplies money to the biggest lobby in the state, California Forward. They're interested in getting rid of counties and cities and putting them into regional agencies such as AMBAG. They're promoted also by the International City Managers Association, the County Administrators Association, the California League of Cities, all of which are not voted. So don't give away your public trust. You're supposed to be in charge of it. It didn't say in the summary that San Bernardino only gets 1 vote among a very few, so the county is surrendering authority to a regional agency. The World Bank and UN is taking the authority from the people that they gave you. And you don't have their permission to give this away. It's the multinational corporations and PG&E that has contracts with ICLEI, a front for the UN and the World Bank. There's an organization in California called SEEC, S-E-E-C. They don't mention it because it's a huge, powerful organization. People can look it up, S-E-E-C. At the very top, you'll see the icon of ICLEI, which is a front for the World Bank and the UN, and that's what these people are doing. They've partnered with ICLEI and also the Globalist Institute for Local Government. That's a Ford Foundation. The head of the Ford Foundation during a congressional committee said their purpose was, they got their orders from the White House, their purpose was to so alter the United States that it can merge with the Soviet Union. You're giving up your democracy and your local control. It's being put in there so they can set a carbon tax so the elite can promote the plan. They control the ratepayers. You get one vote out of all that group. It's going to be just like the solar scam or Obamacare and the other type of stuff. And then they give you this bandwagon stuff. These people are doing it. These people are doing it. You're not getting the details. And then you only get to have 2 meetings a year, but your city managers and your staff has 8 meetings a year. You're supervisors of the staff, not the people. How can you control your staff if you're sending them over there under Bruce McPherson, who's a globalist, and published a newspaper that only pushed globalism in the United Nations? Anyway, he also, as Secretary of State, he purchased the die-bolt machines, which are corrupted from the inside out. Anyway. Anyway, what this is doing, Willie Brown, when he was head of the State Assembly, put in a request to see what it would cost to get rid of all cities and counties in the state and turn them over to Sacramento. These are the same people that are involved.
Any other comments from the public? Now's the time to do so. See none, I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion, a decision. Any additional questions of staff or the presenters?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to clarify a few things, if I might.
Sure.
That'd be great. The consultants that we contracted with to do the analytics, it was an open RFP, so there was not a sole source, so I just want to make sure you understand that. Pacific Energy Advisors have done most of the technical studies. If I'm not incorrect about that, Sean could tell me. They have become the quintessential experts in the state, and they've done, of the successful CCEs that are on the ground, they did their technical studies, and which was one reason why they were chosen. Happy to answer any other questions that might have come up during public testimony. I know that Supervisor Munzer had a question about the opt-in, opt-out. Would you like us to address that?
No, you've addressed it.
I know Supervisor Patel has a comment or question.
I'm a firm believer in working with our regional partners. I think there's some services that we could provide better if we're working together. We've done that locally with our 2 cities and for cost effectiveness. And I think global warming is an issue, and we have to cut down emissions as the world population is growing and energy use and is growing along with it. Which brings my question. This is a regional effort. The cities that are listed here in the counties in Santa Cruz and Monterey, they're already on board and moving with this project, right?
Yes, so of the 21 original partners in the technical study, 18 have agendized the resolution of intent that you're considering today. You're one of those 18. 3 have not responded to us to agendize it as yet. They may still, we don't know. That includes all 3 counties and most of the cities. Of those folks, 8 have passed the resolution of intent. So we expect by Thanksgiving, 18 will have considered it. We expect the majority to pass it. They have indicated their interest, high level of interest.
And kind of with my second question, we listened to Ms. Wyatt. We all know her, and she has different hats in the community. I'm not sure which hat she was wearing just now, if she was just wearing a hat, but I think the question is valid. is there any other group working within the region to provide some sort of programs similar to this that is competitive and that maybe the other cities and counties are considered or looking at, or why we didn't do an RFP?
I actually have Sean address that because she has been is a part of all the nascent CCEs and has helped with all the ones on the ground. She understands the business models available, so I'm going to have her address that for you.
So to answer your question, yes, I believe that there are a couple of new firms that are out there actively soliciting individual cities. I believe Salinas was mentioned as one of them. Those firms, actually, I believe only one is left. One went out of business, and the other does not have any clients currently. Mm-hmm. So they are, I think, trying to solicit new business out there. The woman who was here mentioned Humboldt County. Lean Energy is also working in Humboldt County there are 3 contracts, actually. It is a vendor-managed model such that we are under contract with them for 5 years. We are deferring payment for the first year of startup, and then we will be paid out of the proceeds of the program. That is certainly still an option for this particular program. It costs more money. I mean, I'll just tell you at the end of the day, there's a cost of money, so that it's a 5% cost of money, as opposed to what we're seeing on the market right now with other communities is they're able to self-finance it either through a single local government sponsor or through a bank that's currently offering terms at below 2.5%. So we are actively looking at all of the different options for you in terms of what makes the most sense from an expediency point of view, but also, at the end of the day, how much it will cost to get the program up and running.
Right. Okay. Very good. That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. Only to that, Supervisor Patel, I would add briefly that that Santa Cruz County, as your lead partner, has taken on to issue an RFP just to sort of put the net out there to see what products might be available in terms of financing our startup of this agency. And part of your resolution of intent, which is not legally binding, by the way, your legally bound ordinance would come back to you in January, as your CAO knows. But this resolution of intent puts your CAO, your county council, to the table to negotiate the final terms of the ordinance and to look at the results of that RFP and to see what the best way to go in terms of startup costs are. There would be no expectation of general fund money. Just want to make sure you understand that. So.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Supervisor De La Cruz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank you for the presentation. I just, at this moment, I just can't support the idea. I just have a lot of questions, and I just feel that I need to do more research on this. It's asking us to make a big commitment, and I just feel that I need to compare it to other potential vendors and other ideas. And I've actually never changed, even from when you made your first presentation. I wasn't too in favor of the idea.
There's a lot of frequently asked questions and information on the project website, mbcommunitypower.org. There's also quite a bit of information just on the web. If you Google Community Choice Energy, you certainly can get on the websites of all the existing agencies. Lots of information out there for you if you're interested. Yep. And we can also meet with you and answer questions if you come up with a list of them. Certainly happy to do that as well.
Supervisor Barrios?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. PG&E will be still providing the power lines. They'll be doing all that, and they will also be doing the billing. Is that correct?
They provide all the customer service, including the billing, including maintaining the power lines, distributing the energy. PG&E is a partner in this project.
I was just going to say that.
They are a partner. That's right.
They are a partner.
That's right.
What is their benefit in this game? How do they?
Well, let me start with the fact they're a partner and they get paid for everything that they do. And they do make most of their money now with distribution and customer service versus procurement. The state law requires that the investor and utilities collaborate with cities and counties who want to aggregate their energy purchasing. So would it have been the IOU's first choice? No, it wasn't their first choice. In 2010, when Marin Energy Authority went live, PG&E financed a statewide ballot measure $46 million to try to undercut our ability to aggregate our energy and undercut the state legislation that would allow us to do our purchasing together. And that failed. After $46 million, the voters said, no, we want that option. So we still have the option, and they will be our partner. And when I speak with people, I really want to emphasize that PG&E has done a great job of customer service in our region, and we need to value that customer service. They need to get paid for everything. They do everything that they're doing now, they will continue to do. I think this is you're saying, Sean, this is the biggest change that hardly anybody ever sees because they get the same bill, only there's an additional line on their bill. If they choose to be a Monterey Bay Community Power customer, which they don't have to. They can be a PG&E customer. So I also want to talk about choice. This is about local choice. And PG&E is still there providing gas service and all that customer service and electricity if you want to be their electricity customer. And each one of the customers, every single one of the 285,000 ratepayers that are PG&E customers in this region will get asked four times, if they, in an appropriate way, if they want to be a customer of this agency or PG&E. And even after this agency forms, there will be other opportunities in the future for them to make that choice. So truly, this is about local choice. And PG&E will be a long-term partner in this project.
Okay, and may I continue? What about people that have solar or that opt for solar rather than going with the county or the regional? How does that work?
Right. So solar, it's only for those off-the-grid solar folks that they aren't a PG&E customer. In other words, and there's a few folks out there, they're not very many, but people who have solar, I have solar on my roof. All of us are PG&E customers, and that solar gets fed into the grid. PG&E gives us credit for it, and then if we make a little bit of extra, they give us a little bit of money for it. Not much, but a little bit. So if I wanted to, me and every other solar owner could oversize our solar system and make the solar that we need for our own needs, and then we could sell the rest to the Monterey Bay Community Power Agency for more money than PG&E will give me. So it doesn't affect me. Actually, it could be to your benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, two more questions. PG&E, they've been the expert for decades. Why haven't they developed this form of reducing emissions? I mean, why?
Well, their business
means they have the
right. Their business model is they're an investor-owned utility, and I respect their business model. Some of you don't know my background, but I used to run a nonprofit agency, Ecology Action, for 17 years, which has got $27 million of annual contracts with PG&E doing energy efficiency programs. Proud of that work. I have no problem with it. Partnered with PG&E for many, many years. Their business model is to their investors. They make money. That's right. This is a nonprofit local government agency that's allowed to, it's a different business model, and it allows us to, we don't necessarily have to start a municipal utility and own the grid and take all the risk that entails, which is very risky. We can do this hybrid approach. State law allows us to do this hybrid approach and partner with our investor-owned utility to provide an alternative, essentially. And for me, most of my professional career has been doing environmental work in this region, and I have to say I really love it when something that's really great for the environment has this great economic vitality piece, which really sustains it for the long term. We have 21 governments in the Monterey Bay region. Every one of them has a climate action plan, so do you. And usually one of the number one initiatives of lowering greenhouse gas is community choice energy. Short of getting folks out of their cars and onto bikes, this is the one which we're not going to do tomorrow, honestly. Let's all be honest. We all love our cars. I love my car. Even though it's an electric plug-in, I still love it. This is the one thing we can do to meet the state-mandated greenhouse gas emission goals that we all have that state law was just passed by and signed by the governor, and not harm our local economy, in fact, revitalize our local economy. And for me, long-term, within our lifetime, I believe we can be energy self-sustaining, largely. And that is a really big deal for our children and our grandchildren. That fixes our costs, that creates local jobs, that keeps this money local. And PG&E continues to get paid for their part, and they should, absolutely. And by the way, if Monterey Bay Community Power does not provide the right level of customer service, PG&E will get them back as customers.
Okay.
There's a big incentive there.
Right. And my last question is, I know that the grids are there available for us to use through PG&E, but what if we decide to go with a different source other than, the power lines, are the counties supposed to have a certain inventory of property so that they can be prepared to go that direction?
Well, there's no way to distribute energy without the PG&E power lines. So right now, that is the business model, is to collaborate with PG&E. And so what you're asking me is, what if we wanted to create our own distribution network?
Exactly. Like, let's say the wind turbines or...
Well, that's different. Distribution is different than creation. So what you're talking about is generation, okay, which is the wind and solar. And by the way, biomass is a big one as well.
Exactly.
So if we invest, our Monterey Bay Community Power invests surplus revenues in those types of projects, that generates the energy which will be distributed on the existing grid.
Okay, so the grid is really our only option at this time.
Yeah, that's for distribution. But when you talk about creating the projects to create the energy, that we can invest in, that creates local jobs, and absolutely we can do that.
Okay, because there's going to be a surplus of money, and we may want to go a different direction, so...
Well, as Sean said, Marin Clean Energy has created 2,400 jobs in the projects that they funded. So not all of them in their county, statewide.
Thank you.
But there is, I actually agree with one thing Christina Wyatt said. I support community choice aggregation, and there's a great deal of job creation opportunity in your county. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments from members of the board? President Moser?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you've answered most of my questions, but I do want to point out again, the action we take today is a non-binding action. If we so choose to take any action,
it's telling us that you intend to send your executive staff to the table to in the next couple of months to come up with a final ordinance that you would consider in January, and which we would come back, and then the details of the obligations for the county would be clear in that ordinance.
And then the other thing, which I think Louis pointed out, in our computer or our ATI, San Diego County was sharing a seat with the two cities, San Juan and Hollister. On this draft that we have in front of us, San Diego County has its own seat, and then the two cities share a seat, and that has been okay by the powers to be.
That has yet to be addressed by the powers that be, but in the resolution that this board adopts, you can express that the position of San Benito County is such that you'd like your own seat, and for the second seat to be shared by the city of San Juan Bautista and the city of Hollister. Now, when we get to the table to negotiate the final ordinance, that's going to be something that the rest of the members are going to have to negotiate with us when we go to the table.
All right,
Mr. Chair, and your voice has been heard by staff with fire contracts, animal control contracts, and other contracts that we've had. We don't have really a say, and so I think what we're requesting is to, put that in there so our board does have a say.
Yeah, right there. That would have been a deal killer for me. I think we have other organizations where the county, kind of has a pretty equal footing. I think it's very important with Santa Cruz and Monterey County, and my experience working through other organizations, we've had a pretty good working relationship. If there's a problem with that we may have, they do tend to listen, and we try to work it out.
Well, we had a call with the assistant CEO from Santa Cruz. Ginny was on the call. Sean, I think you were on the call. And that's where that suggestion derived from. So we've heard that very clearly, as the CAO stated.
Yeah, good.
A word about the governance that's envisioned for this agency. A best practice, as recommended by the existing community choice energy agencies and experts, is to keep this governing board similar to your air quality control district board. You have too many members, and it becomes, you're running a utility here in partnership with PG&E. You really have to have institutional knowledge, a large depth of knowledge, as a matter of fact, which is one reason why there's two different sets of brains on this, your policy and big decision-making elected board and your city manager and CAO board, because you really have to dive deep and become experts at this. That's important. And it takes time to build that knowledge, that institutional knowledge. So 11 members seem to be a really good number, and it's an accepted number with your air district, and it has been working well. So that's where that came from.
And I just want to point out the Air District. San Diego County does have its own seat on.
Yes,
on the Air
and that was recognized in the call we had with our assistant CAO. You are a county. The original you guys shared a seat thing came from a population-based sort of notion, but you're a county, and a county has a particular role to play here, and I think that's well recognized.
Any other questions or comments, members of the board? Sorry, sir, but the period for public comment is over.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2016-87.
Second.
Okay, the motion is under, yes, under the motion.
Whatever. I'd like to change that so that we look the same on the resolution under D, that we look the same as the other counties do, where our seat is identified separate from the shared seats of the cities of San Juan Bautista and Hollister, just like you did the others.
Okay.
Yeah,
we can make that edit.
Make the motion okay with that?
Yeah.
Motion to.
And that was section D for the record?
Section D, and so there would be an X1.
X1.
On the bottom with saying that one shared seat for the cities of San Juan Bautista and the city of Hollister.
Okay, duly noted.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So this will conclude our meeting, this regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. We will, if I can have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
The next regular meeting will be Tuesday, November 8th, 2016, which will bring an end to this long presidential election. November 8th.
I second the motion for the
All right.
adjournment.
She has to keep going on as best.